Just when you're about to have a settled, peaceful time at Chelsea, something has to happen. It was the Lukaku interview last time that threw us off a good run. Now we have some breaking news, very serious news. Now, according to Tribuna, MUDRYK has tested positive in a doping test. In the A sample, a banned substance was found in the end of the test that he did in October, and actually the B sample is expected to be opened next week. So at the moment, remember that MUDRYK was actually out in quotes through illness, but the reports are coming out that he has actually failed a doping test. Now, I've just had some talks, information about this, especially from TalkSport, and Simon Jordan was explaining that the B test actually cannot be so different from the A test, and probably Mykhailo Mudryk can actually face huge suspensions. So the club already released a press statement with regards to this information, and we are really waiting to see how this pans out. Again, this is one of the negative noise that Chelsea do not need, but it is what it is. That is what has actually happened, and this is where Chelsea is actually finding themselves with regards to Mykhailo Mudryk. And question will be asked whether this affects the team, but the club is hopeful that this thing can be concluded. And MUDRYK has also come out in a statement and said that he has never used this kind of substance knowingly. So we really hope to know what is going to happen next. Now we move on to the main basis of this video, and it is a tactical analysis of the Brentford and Chelsea game. So I received some comments, especially from some fans who noted some few tactics that I did not actually look into that occurred in this game. And after watching the game again, I saw that there are some other things that Enzo Maresca did in this game that I really want to talk about, and I really want to explain how he managed to do it. Because again, as I told you, the Brentford game is not just one of those games. Remember, one thing we noticed in this curve is that Chelsea dominated the game throughout the first 75 to 80 minutes. But you can see the blue lines downwards indicating how Brentford became lightning. They started to threaten Chelsea towards the latter stages of the game. And Maresca even said this when he was asked about the title race talks, talking about how if a team is in the title race, they do not allow such kinds of things to happen. So what was actually happening in this point? That is what we're going to look at before we even start and finish. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, towards the latter stages of the game, we saw this awkward throwing that Chelsea had. And the way Brentford had set themselves up is that towards the latter stages of the game, they had set themselves up in that they would force Chelsea to actually lose the ball through a throwing. And one thing that I realized was that Cucurella made a mistake in making the throw on to Caicedo, because when Caicedo lost the ball was quickly played to Mbeumo. The out of possession organization that happened in this case was not quite great, because Colwill was not touch tight on Mbeumo, and in that case Mbeumo managed to beat Chelsea in that situation. But one thing we need to understand is that in the beginning of the game, especially in the first half, Brentford had lined up in a 5-3-2 structure. Both of their forwards were deeper. But one thing that Maresca understood in this position is that he knew there was no need of using two pivots when he could use one pivot and actually cover two Brentford forwards. And in that case, he actually pushed the secondary pivot high up so that he can match Brentford's back three. Now Brentford even went ultra aggressive and went into a 6-2-2 structure with one midfielder dropping deep to try and cover Enzo Fernandez. And that is why Maresca had to be so aggressive that he pushed both Colwill and Malo Gusto on a similar line to that of Moises Caicedo, making Chelsea to play with a 1-3-3-3, meaning that he actually played with one centre back and the two overlapping outside centre backs in midfield helping Caicedo. Now looking at this structure, you can see Mbeumo and Wissa are covering Caicedo, but now their two double pivots deeper are being overloaded because Fernandes is actually the free man. If Nogard is busy covering Palmer, then Fernandes is free to receive the ball. And because of the midfield three that was looking to try and cover these Chelsea three players, the problem now had to be solved by the centre backs stepping out of position. And what we noticed is that Chelsea's centre backs had a lot of time, space on the ball. And whenever Brighton were tempted to push forward to press them, Caicedo in particular would look to play those balls in between lines. And this is where the problems started for Brentford. Because there's one statistics that I failed to tell you in the previous video, and that is the number of crosses that Chelsea had in this game. Now, because of the inward position that Palmer, Fernandes were picking, Malo Gusto in particular had acres and acres upon of space. And that's why Palmer and Fernandes will shift the ball out to Gusto, who had no player marking him because Wissa was looking to mark Caicedo. So whenever Gusto received this ball, he would push forward and look to whip in crosses. And that's how Chelsea managed to have a lot of crosses from Malo Gusto. Now in the second half, the dynamics of the team changed. And they changed in that Brentford moved their block slightly higher. And moving their block slightly higher meant that Brentford started to press Chelsea because they already went 1-0 down and they had to force mistakes from Chelsea so that they can look to capitalize and score from transitions. Now the deep block moved into an aggressive mid block, with Brentford going with a front three with one midfielder pushing forward and the two midfielders looking to go man-to-man with Caicedo and Fernandes. But this further was a high-risk case that will give Brentford a high-reward case. But here comes Enzo Maresca's brilliance, because Maresca was able to use Cucurella and Palmer in these positions to receive the ball under pressure and look to progress with the ball. But Maresca's initial plan for this game was to stifle, choke, deny Brentford any space whenever they had the ball, because he knew if he had the ball majority of the time, Brentford will not score. So the perfect example of what Maresca did was an aggressive high press. The press was so aggressive that Jackson in particular, and Maresca talked about it, was covering two players, the goalkeeper and one forward. Palmer and Fernandes were onto the pivots, while Sancho and Noni Madueke were onto the wide centre backs. The wing backs were being covered by the Chelsea's wing backs in this case. And because of that man-to-man approach that Chelsea had, Brentford did not have an opportunity to escape the pressure. And majority of the time, they decided to go along targeting Malo Gusto. As I told you, that was what they wanted. But Chelsea read the situation because it was actually Tosin and Rabiot who was switching out of position to actually try to win those duels. Now, Chelsea, who are not in the title race, have these remaining 5 fixtures. Liverpool has these 5 fixtures and Arsenal have these 5 fixtures. Now, these are very tough games. Remember, Goodison away has never been an easy game for Chelsea. Fulham are looking quite strong. Palace and Bournemouth are also not looking quite easy. So the question is, what do you think is going to be the league position of Chelsea after this game? But again, you know, there is noise now at Chelsea. There is now the negative publicity that we don't like at Chelsea. That negative publicity from this MUDRYK story. Chelsea are currently 2 points behind Liverpool. They are looking great. They are playing well. But as I always say, we always have to have that Lukaku moment during the season, because it is not usually a normal day at Chelsea. There must be something, and this time it looks to be this MUDRYK situation. So hopefully it's not going to affect the overall performance of the game. I know Enzo Maresca is smart enough, he's intelligent enough to know how to deal with this situation. What do you think? Leave your comments in the comment section area below, and thanks for watching.